Within my research, I chose to conduct a study on social loafing. Social loafing can be best defined as a phenomenon in which people will exert very little effort within their group environment and the tasks set for people within the group. Social loafing can be seen in many different group dynamics and has been known to be conflicting when considering group tasks such as with teams, places of employment, and school settings. The reasons for the existence of social loafing are due to many reasons that are justifiable to the individual who participates in loafing. When one can justify the lack of effort within a group, they will identify with loafing through their behavior. Social loafing is a psychological term for the Ringelmann effect, in which Max Ringelmann discovered this phenomenon through observation of groups of various sizes, participating in an exercise that consisted of pulling on a rope attached to a gauge. The gauge would measure the exertion of individuals in groups. What he noticed that as groups got larger in size, strength measurements was not excessively stronger than individual strength. This brought the realization that although groups can be powerful in strength and more people should predict a high strength level, what was really happening was that with more people involved in a task, less exertion was taking place. I found loafing to be abhorrent within my research as I have experienced what social loafing can do within a group dynamic such as soccer teams, school project groups, and with my place of employment. Social loafing, from my experience, can be quite problematic when others within the group can identify that the equality within the group responsibilities is not evenly distributed. This takes place when a group is assigned a task and you have one or more individuals who will come on board within the group, but once the task is assigned and they see the opportunity to not complete their task because someone else will pick up the slack, the individual will allow others to do their task while still getting credit for being part of the group. This type of behavior can lead to a lack of cohesion when others notice the negativity of social loafing. Many will feel the unfairness within the roles, yet will continue as they know their effort as well as others will ultimately reflect the perception of the group. In places of employment where there are many different people of different capabilities, one can take notice of how social loafing can be a conflicting problem. The reason as to why this creates conflict in a negative work environment is due to the fact that individuals who partake in completing a task will begin to feel resentment towards the loafer. They feel negative towards their place of employment, and most of all, when tasks are assigned within groups, people find it justifiable to no longer want to participate in completing a task due to those who practice social loafing. This feeling of no longer wanting to participate in group tasks is due to the sucker effect, in which individuals no longer want to pursue a task when they see a social loafer within the group, as they identify themselves as being a sucker or suckered into doing someone else's task. This can be quite frustrating for any individual to encounter, and this is why social loafing is seen in a negative manner, wherever groups of individuals come together to complete a common task. With social loafing being a negative experience, individuals will choose not to be a part of a group or associate themselves with people who do not share the same work ethics. In trying to better understand social loafing, I came across a few studies. A study by Kipling Williams and Stephen Carell that focused on social loafing and social compensation and the effects of expectation of coworker performance. They focused on participants who work collectively or coactively. To work collectively is to work within a group that is focused on the same collective task. They are grouped together with those of a team, place of employment, or school, and they are to come together and contribute to the common goal. This study was a test of social compensation hypothesis in which Williams and Crow used to complement social loafing or the phenomenon of the Ringelmann effect. In order to determine if the phenomenon was similar within the study, Williams and Crow proposed that under certain conditions, people may actually work harder within a collective setting than in a coactive setting in order to compensate for people within a group who do not exert themselves to assist with completing a task. The reasons believed that social compensation is accurate are that one may feel expected to perform well in order to make up for those who perform insufficiently. Another reason of social compensation is that the task within a group may be more important to certain individuals, and so they exert effort in the task. If a person does not find importance within a task, they may not put in the effort, yet others will compensate for them and complete the task at hand. In order to test the hypothesis of social compensation, Williams and Crowd designed a study that would test people to see whether they would ultimately work harder collectively than individually when their coworkers, for various reasons, were expected to perform poorly on a meaningful task. The hypothesis created for this study was that when people are working on a task that is of importance, their coworkers will compensate collectively or collectively for those who are not capable of completing a task based on their lack of skill or their disregard to the task altogether. The researchers conducted 3 experiments in where experiment 1 and 2 were very similar. Experiment 1 was that of the idea generation task, in which has been done through previous studies and where an object is given and participants are to find multiple uses for it. The participants listed the uses individually and inserted them into the coactive box, while also listing uses one at a time within a collective box to measure how many ideas were given amongst a group. It was found within this experiment that participants did significantly better coactively than collectively. In experiment 2, which was similar to the idea generated task that would measure how quickly ideas could be created. This experiment consisted of a manipulation where a participant stated, "I don't think I will do so well." This was said in order to see if the other participant would put in more effort knowing that their participant could possibly jeopardize their task. In experiment 3, there was a similarity to experiment 2 in that it was done with the idea-generated task of an object in which its uses were to be listed in a rapid manner with participants who demonstrated either a high meaningfulness, which consisted of a high level of intelligence, and due to its intelligence were treated better than those who demonstrated a low level of intelligence and were treated with no regard. What was found within this study was that social loafing was existent in the 3 experiments that tested for unreliableness, unwillingness, and inability. This was attributed to social compensating and where one or more of the group members exerted themselves due to the perception they were given by other individuals. Those who compensated for the individuals who did not exert themselves due to a lack of skills or ability due to social loafing demonstrated that when people are part of a group that requires complete effort from all individuals, many will make the effort to complete the task for the identity of the group as a whole, even while social loafing is taking place. Within another study of social loafing, Charbonnier, Haga, Brouwer, and Montiel tested whether one who participates in loafing has a belief that they are better than others on performance, while also testing to see whether there is a tendency for individuals to put in less effort when others are working collectively than individually. Within this study, it was noted that there is a widespread belief within our country and Western Europe that while working in a collective manner, people should inspire others to maximize their potential work effort by the example of others working to complete a task. In order to gain such findings, the researchers hypothesized that self-belief, which means that one who is confident about their skills, appearance, and behavior, have a high confidence within themselves, puts them in a higher standard related to one's feelings of being unique, which attributes to their social loafing. It was predicted by the researchers that the participants within the study who feel a sense of uniqueness based on their characteristics would feel better than others, and which would make them more prone to demonstrating social loafing when their results are compared to collective efforts and co-active efforts. The method used to conduct this study and predict the hypothesis was that of a design that was made of subject factors. The factors used were work conditioned in a collective versus coactive manner. They utilized the idea generation task, in which is a task that is similar to that of the other social loafing studies. They used the same object of a knife, in which was used to generate ideas of how the knife was to be utilized. A box was used to place lists that had individual ideas and another that had the ideas of 2 or more people. After the task was completed, they were asked if they would prefer to do this task alone or with someone else, as well as answer questions about their skills of academics, athletic team participation, creativity, and social skills. These questionnaires were able to measure their sense of uniqueness. This demonstrated a false unique bias, in which is believed that through these questions, respondents can claim that they are better than others based on their abilities. What the researchers found from this study was that the participants generated more uses when they worked coactively. They inserted their uses for a knife more frequently in the coactive condition box as opposed to the collective condition box. Participants who demonstrated high self-uniqueness from the questionnaire participated coactively at a higher rate than those who demonstrated low self-uniqueness. What this demonstrated was that the hypothesis was supported in that self-belief to how one feels about themselves and their uniqueness does moderate social loafing. Based on the collective effort model, which is based on a model proposing that working on tasks as a part of a group tends to weaken individual motivation, it was demonstrated that the participants high in self-uniqueness were disposed to seeing their effort less useful in obtaining outcomes when working in a collective manner, as they prefer to work coactively. An interesting finding within this study was that those individuals who saw themselves as better than others are most likely to experience these types of social loafing. It allows them to positively motivate themselves through demonstrating better effort within the task at hand. They socially identify with a sense of superiority and self-validation by being positively evaluated, which is an encouragement for the social loafer. In another study, motivating interdependent teams, individual rewards, shared rewards, or something in between, researchers Purcell, Christian, and Ellis studied motivational processes in teams in order to examine the effects of hybrid rewards on team performance. The focus of this was to better understand the mechanisms between a team. The researchers hypothesized the benefits of hybrid over shared individual rewards were due to the increased information allocation and reduced social loafing. Hybrid reward structures are meant to encourage members to meet their goal responsibilities, and it is believed that this reduces social loafing. What is known about motivating teams is that it is more complex due to the different goals that each member has, as opposed to a work group that has a common goal within their organization of employment. Motivating teams with rewards is somewhat more difficult, as the reward must be shared amongst all participants. Managers within work groups, on the other hand, can reward each employee individually. It is known that the incentives motivate workers by creating a link between employee effort and reward. When these rewards are valued by the individual and are aligned with their performance, workers will exert themselves in order to attain a reward. To determine if rewards and incentives can motivate a person in doing a task, the researchers came across 3 hypotheses to test. Hypothesis 1 was that hybrid rewards will result in higher team performance than individual and cooperative rewards. Hypothesis 2, that teams will operate under hybrid rewards will do better than teams that are rewarded individually due to division of rewards to all employees, and hypothesis 3, teams that operate under hybrid rewards will do better under cooperative rewards due to reduced social loafing. These 3 hypotheses focus on the motivational process that researchers wanted to examine to understand what motivates people to work collectively in order to reach a goal or complete a task. The test consisted of a modified version of the distributed dynamic decision-making stimulation computer game. This game would measure cooperation amongst all participants. Teams were created and rewards were assigned for each task completed either individually or within a group. Their behavior was also measured in order to find a cooperative condition as well as their verbal behavior was observed. With these different measurements, the researchers could determine if the participants were team players. The study found that when individuals' rewards were directed at players, they put in more of an effort to earn rewards, demonstrating individualistic values. When group rewards were offered, it was noted that certain individuals participated in social loafing as they knew regardless of what they accomplished, they would be rewarded just for being a part of the group. These individuals did not exert themselves as they would if this task was individualistic. Individual rewards directed team members' attention and effort toward their own individual responsibilities, and cooperative rewards directed team members' attention toward collective interaction as a reward would be shared. Within my own research of social loafing, I chose to focus on my place of employment, which is an administrative office within a social service agency. Within this department, there are many components that allow for our department to function. For my research, I chose the qualitative data method of observation. This involved me taking notes while observing the behavior and activities of all individuals within the group. Because of this, I was able to take advantage of seeing situations unfold as they happened. This allowed me to accurately record what I was observing. With this method, I was able to observe different circumstances of the topic of social loafing. Most importantly, what I observed could not be set up prior to my observations as it was happening in real time. This allowed me to make observations that could not be manipulated, as my presence within our office was not unusual, as I was always there working on the same task as well. This form of data collection was quite beneficial for me, as I knew the roles and tasks assigned to every individual. The task at hand in which I observed was preparing for internal audits of the Department of Education, which involved auditing over 1,000 student files of those who participate within our 11 child development centers throughout Riverside County. The task of our team was assigned by the administrator and the chief operating officer who followed directions from the Department of Education. Tasks were assigned based on skill level and experience of auditing files. The most knowledgeable had the task of gathering data through online portals that were connected to our 11 different child development sites. This data consisted of demographics for each individual child and their guardians. With this task being performed by those who most use the data system, they then assigned specialists to locate each file to be inspected. A system was being implemented at this point. I noticed that once the task of data collecting was completed, there was no longer a reason for those individuals to exert themselves with other tasks, such as where help was most needed. This created conflict, as this became noticeable as to who was participating in social loafing, which was the more senior level employees, once their task was complete. They self-validated themselves as feeling superior and more unique within the task, as they held higher positions. They demonstrated this by having closed-door conversations, setting up lunch meetings, and leaving the office altogether. Those who did not uphold a higher status within the office positions found themselves involved in social compensation effect. In order to complete the task for a department, they needed to overcompensate by doing tasks not assigned to them, as others no longer felt the need to participate due to the perceived sucker effect, in which involved backing out of a task because others were not performing theirs. This meant taking longer lunch hours and even some instances not showing up at the office at all. Prior to observing what was taking place, I had not noticed why the environment within my department was always overwhelming. As a new employee, I came into this major task not knowing what to expect. Not until people completed their tasks did I notice social loafing taking place. When this was present, one could see how others truly felt about an individual. I did not expect this, as this was something quite new to me. I had never noticed prior to this audit how people would use their positions to an advantage. Those who participated in social loafing felt a sense of superiority due to their positions within the department. They did the very minimal while assigning major tasks to various people. They assigned them based on their skill level and knowledge, this in essence making their job easier and where the person could self-guide themselves without asking for assistance. Because of this knowledge from those in superior positions, they knew that others would compensate where an effort was missing through longer work hours, overtime, and picking up where others stopped working altogether. This became quite discouraging to me, as this was not how I defined being a part of a team. There were many team members, but not enough team players. Our chief operating officer repeatedly used the word team when she spoke of the audit. This I feel she did in order to keep us focused on the goal at hand, which was passing the Department of Education audit. The collective effort existed only for a few. Those who did not participate in collective effort did so reluctantly, as they knew the credit would still be given. An interesting finding that also impacted me was how people completing the task demonstrated unhappiness and complained about their wages. They expressed how they were not getting paid enough to put up with laziness. They complained about not getting anything in return over very little. One individual even mentioned, "Does she think she can keep us happy by feeding us donuts every Friday?" When I first heard of this audit that would take place, I had the preconceived notion that there would be order within such an important task of trying to maintain a multi-million-dollar contract. The time I observed my coworkers, I saw many sides to multiple people and how social loafing impacted them. There were instances that I made observations of tasks that I felt I could help complete based on the very little knowledge I had of auditing files and creating spreadsheets. I was finding myself trying to figure out how to compensate where it was needed. Things I found of importance within my observation was that people who social loaf find it easy to do so, as they can remove themselves from situations while a collective group will continue to proceed with the task, as there are enough people to do so. This is considered free riding when members will do less than their share, as they know others will complete the task. Due to these types of people, there will be more who feel suckered into doing someone else's job, that they will remove themselves completely due to their frustration. This then leads to more conflicting circumstances as others who possess less task knowledge will compensate for others as they still see the task as being an important part of a team. This task completed by those who put in the most work with great effort initially demonstrated the importance of doing a job well, as a reward will not be one of individualistic, but rather one that is shared amongst all child development centers. This rewarding everyone within a department with a good reputation and awarded grants to expand on the child development centers. Within my research, I was able to identify how social loafing has an impact on many people who must work in a collective effort to complete a task. I was able to experience the negative feelings that social loafing is attributed to. In getting a better understanding of how people participate in social loafing, I found myself as a manager within my place of employment wanting to remedy the negative feelings that comes with social loafing. Although social loafing can be found to take place within large group settings, social facilitation also tells us that people who work in groups can also be more productive. Social facilitation takes place when people realize that they are being evaluated by others. Although this may be true, it may not always be the case for some people. But studies have demonstrated that evaluating someone does correlate with their work effort when others are watching. I found that when people of higher positions, such as those within my workplace, set an example of work ethic, they ultimately pave the path for others to follow. It was surprising to see that the people who did not have less skills did not participate in social loafing, but rather those who are very well skilled are those who demonstrated this behavior. It seemed to me that they felt superior to others and demonstrated a lack of professionalism within an environment of importance. I felt that those who were higher than me within their position used their power and position to have others do their work while receiving recognition through the efforts of others. In observation, I found that many people demonstrated social identity theory, in which suggests that the difference between a hardworking group and those who exert very little and participate in social loafing can be attributed to how one identifies themselves. Forsyth tells us that if people work together and they do not find meaning or importance in a group task, they will demonstrate a lack of care by social loafing, and the importance of exceeding the task or failing means very little to them. When people demonstrate a sense of self and identify with being a hard worker within a group, they demonstrate social laboring and where they do what it takes to complete a task. When we consider that social loafing exists when many people are involved, I feel it is important to find a remedy for such a negative act. The collective effort model proposes that people working on a task become less motivated when others do not equally participate. In order to change this framework, there are cures that can change this negativity within groups. To begin, people must become identifiable through evaluations. This meaning that within a group, there should be a collective effort to identify those who are not participating within a task. This evaluator must have full knowledge of titles and job descriptions. Free riding must be stopped by not allowing members to participate in social compensation. This allowing that person assigned the task will complete their task and they will not be compensated through the efforts of others. When one does not compensate for others, the ability to free ride diminishes from a group in which does not allow them to not do their share of work. Because social loafing can be seen negatively, one may feel as though they are suckered into compensating for others, but if others stick to their assigned task, the sucker effect weakens and those who are working collectively will not have the need to abandon a task. Groups must also set common goals and where everyone is focused on the same objective. This allowing for collective performance of all individuals. Providing incentives and rewards for the collective effort in a task also can contribute to a group effort. This becomes a sense of motivation for all involved. Motivation, as we know, is a stimulant that provides effort and energy into completing a task. When rewards and incentives are involved, one becomes more stimulated in performing well to reach their goals. In considering all of these forms of remedies, I found it is important within groups that the leaders set clear examples of themselves and the expectations of all individuals within a task. The leader must find themselves always involved within the task in order to succeed. This form of involvement, I believe, can be beneficial not only for work settings, but also those of different group dynamics.